morning everyone and very warm welcome to one and all and welcome to Asquare Classes. As we are beginning with a second chapter or a second session of your ecology sessions, let me remind you what we have learned in a previous class in a very precise way. We have seen that ecology. What is ecology? Ecology, definition of ecology. Precisely we have seen the branches of ecology. There are two branches of ecology. It includes autoecology and synecology, and then we have moved on towards the very first chapter of our 12th ecology, that is organism and population. Before beginning with the organism and population, I have told you few important names which are very important in ecology, and those were, I have told you the ecology, the first term was coined by Ritter. Ritter was the first person to coin the term ecology. And I have told you the father of Indian ecology, that is Ramdev Mishra. Please don't forget this name. These two names are very important. Okay. And then I have told you, as we have moved on further, we have seen what is organism, what is population, and then we have seen species. Species, we have seen three different types of species, which includes precisely we have seen three species, which includes lastly not the least, that is critical link species, ketone species and endemic species. In endemic species we have seen those who are endangered species, like Metacichia plant in China is endangered found only in China. They are endemic species, are those species which are found particularly in one restricted area, that is called as endemic species. And second comes the other species, which was called as ketone species. What are these ketone species? Ketone species are those species which have a great characteristics on other species. For example, in a forest, there exists a tiger. Because of the climatic or the habitual action of the tiger, it does not, other animals or the other subsequent animals are not free to rotate around the whole forest. That can vary their habitat, that can vary their food, that can vary their other restricted life form, that can vary their biodiversity. That is the reason why. Now why if suppose if a lion or if a tiger, okay, is present in a forest, is openly present in as it is a large or less biomass, but it is present in more amount in an influential way. How does it affect influential way? It affects that deer cannot rotate whole forest unwantedly or in a free way. Why? Because it has a link of prey predator. As on we move forward, we will see there is a competition, there is interrelationship between the species for their prey, for their parasitism, for their competitors, for their response. There are many other activities between the species which need to be carried out. That is the reason this type of species which influence the characteristics of other species is called as ketone species. Clear, friends? That was I meant. And critical link species are those species which establish a relationship between two previous species. This I have explained in living world also, and because we are moving with the ecology and this is a part of species, and that's why I told you that please move on through these three units. And then we have completed community, the precise definition of community, and then I have explained you the species diversity, what is species diversity, what is forms of it, etc, etc, etc. And then now we are going to begin with a dominant species or a species dominance. Among the community, I have said you two things. Yesterday we have learned community. Remember, yesterday we have learned community. What we have learned? We have learned community. Okay? In community, we have learned, I have told you species. I have given you example of community was what? Biotic community. Was biotic community. What is the example of biotic community which involves animal community, plant community, and microbial community. Isn't it? I gave you the example of this biotic community in community. Remember? Previous class I have shown you this example, right? Now comes As I said, community, biotic community, then I have taught you species diversity. First point, and I taught you species diversity. Isn't it? I did, right? I have taught you species diversity. Then I'm going to teach you what is dominant species. The species which are present more in number. The species which are present in highest amount of number in a locality or in a habitat, that type of species is called as what? Is called as dominant species. So, species which are present highest, species which are present highest in number and are also stable species. Such kind of species or including in a community. Species, group of species togetherly form what? Community. Such kind of species or such kind of community. Such kind of species or such kind of communities called as dominant species. Dominant species. And the name of that species, the name of that locality, name of that habitat is also referred from that species. Name and the name of that habitat or locality is referred from that name or that species name, that is called as dominant species, referred from that species name, and is called as dominant species. Clear, my friends? Any doubt? Please make a note of this point. It is very, very important point. What I have said, let me give you again a short info about it. I have said what is dominant species. Dominant species are those species which are present in the highest amount or the highest number, which are present in the highest amount or highest in number and are also stable species That is, the interaction or the interrelationship between those two, organism and environment or the physical environment, is more stable, is more adaptable, is more precisable. That's why it is called as what? It is called as stable species, and such kind of species present in the community is called as dominant species. Clear? And the name of that species of locality is referred from that, the name of that habitat, or you can say locality is referred from that species or that name, and that is called as what? Dominant species. Clear? Any doubt? Just write it. And the very good example of it is Prosopis in Aravalli Hills. Prosopis is an example in Aravalli Hills, or in Aravalli Hills is a very good example of dominant species as it is found in highest number. And the second example of it is Pinus plant in Himalayas. Pinus in Himalaya. Pinus in Himalayan. Any doubt? Got it? See what we are learning, what we are going through it. This is just beginning of your NCERT. We have gone very depth. We will, you know, when you read line by line of your NCERT, you understand it's just one point. Ecology, I'll tell you what, my friends, ecology, according to NCERT, run by only 4 words. What are those 4 words? I'll tell you. See, it basically runs on organism, population, community, and biome. Go through your NCERTs, just take up first page of your second phase of your first page of your chapter, and you will see these 4 words, and please remember the order of it because it is very important order and it was asked in previous year's question paper. Just the same order it was given. What is the ecological hierarchy? What is the correct ecological hierarchy for the organisms and population species? And there it goes on with organism, population, community, and biome. Got it? Please remember, this is the mark your line. This is the word. This exact line is from your NCERT. Just never forget this point. And if someone asks you why this is stable species, it is stable species because it has great interrelationship and interaction with its physical environment. Clear? Okay. And the very good example of it is Prosopis in Aravalli Hills and Pinus in Himalayas. Clear? Now we are going to see a very important and very interesting topic. After this, in community only we will see is, I'll tell you. So now we are going to see the next very important phase of species other than communities. Other than in the community, we are going to see what is stratification. What is stratification? Have you ever heard about this word? What is stratification? A beautiful meaning of this word. It is meant, stratification is layer or arrangement of things. You can write it as stratification is arrangement of things layer by layer. Layer by layer. When you arrange things layer by layer, when you arrange things in a proper rows, when you arrange things in a proper sequence, and those sequence we get it as stratification. Undergrows. Example, very good example of stratification is, example, herbs, shrubs, then comes undershrubs, and then comes trees. Herbs, shrubs, undershrubs, and trees. Herbs, shrubs, undershrubs, and trees. How are these classified? You should ask me, Mom, how are these small plants, this big plant? How can you see herbs, the smallest grass-like plant which are present just before shrubs? There also comes bewildered surface, which crawl, which creep on the surface, which is also called as surface bewilders. Surface bewilders. So the smallest plant which gets light, which crawls, which creeps, then comes herbs, then we go on, as we go on we get shrubs, then we move on, we see undershrubs, and then we see trees. Got it? Clear? This is important. This is how you have arranged things. You can see creepers, crawlers, crawling plants like that. Then you see growth of few herbs, small plants. Then you see bush-like plants. Then you see more small stem-like plants growing. And then you see a proper tree. Can you see how it goes? Crawlers, creepers, move on to grasses, bushes, then small stem plants, and then trees. How they are arranged layer by layer. Can you see? Either they have arranged in ascending order, either we can arrange in descending order. When you go from small to the tall or small to the big, now you can say, ma'am, you have told me that this is the stratification, is the classification. Classification or arrangement of things from small to big. But can it be something like that? Like how? If I say, ma'am, tree comes first, tree, this is our tree, then your bush or a small stem plant, then bushes, then, why can't it be like that? It can be like that. Bushes, then crawlers and creepers. It can be either this way, it can be either this way. Why? Because it is arrangement in the layer. When you see things are arranged in the layer, that time it is called as stratification. And that is also, stratification is mostly on the ecological entity. When you classify, when you arrange things of ecological entity in the layer by layer, that is called as what? Stratification. And what do you absorb? How this is arranged? Why this is arranged in this way? Why? Because this is a light dependent arrangement. Light dependent. Which is also called as phototropic. Which is also called as phototropic. Which is also called as phototropic movement. Why? The movement towards the light, the movement of the plant towards the light is called as phototropic movement. And can you see, as crawlers and creepers get less amount of light, it just keep rotating towards the surface. That is why they are called as surface bewilders. We see herbs, the small grasses, the garden grasses which grow. That is called, Marathit सांगितलं तर गवत कळतं ना, तसले असतात हे. Herbs, and then come shrubs. Then under shrubs, below the tree, there are small tiny plants, stem plant we can see. Okay, and then come trees. Clear? This is the layer. And this is what? This is basically a phototropic movement. Can you see? Now if we talk about, ma'am, you would have asked me, ma'am, you told me the stratification about this plants on the surface of the earth. On the earth's surface. But you should ask me, ma'am, is stratification seen on the river or on the lake or in a water bodies? Any water, ma'am, can we see stratification in the water bodies? I should say yes, you can see stratification in the water bodies. I'll explain you how. Stratification based on light. Stratification based on light. Stratification based on light. Stratification based on light. When we see stratification based on light on lake, show you, I'll explain you. This is very important. Please never ever forget it. Write it down as I'll say you. We are going to see now the stratification based on light or stratification based on light in the lake. We are going to see how the stratification is seen in the lake. Suppose, imagine these are the banks of the river, and this is bank of the river, bank of river. This is bank of the river, and this is the nearby areas. Can you see? This is the nearby areas around it, and you will mostly get a grasses, vegetation, marshy, shallow land. This is the source of light which the river have mostly. Sun, our sun. How rays attract over here, how rays come over here. Okay, Now you can see the three zones. Can you see zone number 1? Can you see zone number 2? And can you see zone number 3? Yeah, I'll tell you how. Zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, littoral. Zone 1 is called as littoral zone. Zone 3 is called as limnatic zone. And zone 2 is called as limnatic zone. Zone 3 is called as profundal. Zone 3 is referred to as profundal zone. Now you should ask me, ma'am, what is this littoral zone? What is this limnatic zone? And what is this profundal zone? So, limnatic zone, I'll write it here. Limnatic zone it's the zone which receives sunlight directly and has vegetated plants. Clear? Vegetated root plants. You can say vegetated root. Their roots are submerged. They have submerged plants are seen in this area. That is called as littoral zone. Littoral zone. It is a zone which receives the sunlight directly and has vegetated plants which has root submerged on the banks of the river. Root which is it is shallow and marshy areas. You have seen this in your nearby. You have seen this in your nearby surrounding. You have seen this in your nearby areas near the river. You can see precisely in this. See this area, this surface, which is called as littoral zone. Clear? Littoral zone. B, limnatic zone. What is limnatic zone? Limnatic zone is where the sufficient amount of light reach and phytoplanktons. What are these phytoplanktons? These phytoplanktons are the floating plants. Phytoplankton, the presence of phytoplanktons in which zone of the river stratification is the question, and it comes what it is limnatic zone. The presence of phytoplankton in which zone it is found? It is found in limnatic zone. Clear? Where the sufficient amount of light reaches and phytoplanktons are present. That type or that zone is called as limnatic zone. And it is not too deep. This zone is not too deep. You can understand why? Because when the source of light comes and get back reflected, this is our limnatic zone. This is our littoral zone. Clear? So you can write it as it is not too deep. Clear? Any doubt? This is what is our limnatic zone. Last, but not the least, are profundal zone. Now comes C, the third one is profundal zone. Profundal zone. What is this profundal zone? It is the deepest zone. The deepest zone in the stratification of the lake, in the stratification of the river. It is the deepest zone. This is our profundal zone. Can you see? This is it. This is the deepest zone, and here there is no presence of light. Here there is no presence of light is seen in which zone? If I ask you no presence of light is seen in which zone, it is completely profundal zone. Never forget it, never forget it. And I told you before this also, where are the phytoplanktons found? They are mostly found in limnatic zone. Limnatic zone को याद ही इसी से रखना है क्या? Phytoplanktons. Very important. What are these phytoplanktons? Freely floating plants are called as phytoplanktons. Free, able to float, and extremely tremendous growth can be seen in those plants that are called as what? Phytoplanktons. Clear? Now I was telling you about profundal zone. It is the deepest zone. Here there is no presence of light, and mostly polyps and corals are seen over here. Polyps or you can see polyps and corals are seen. And what are these corals? Excessive collection of polyps. Clear? I have told you very well what is polyps in our very first chapter of our botany, that is living world. I have explained you the parts of corals. I have explained you the colors of polyps. Please visit the first class of botany, living world. अपने पन्ने पलटो और उसमें समझ में आ जाएगा कि पॉलिप्स क्या है, बताया है, कलर टाइप्स, कोरल, पिंक, बेबी पिंक एंड ऑल दैट कलर हैव बीन एक्सप्लेन्ड, पिगमेंट्स, व्हाई दिस एग्जिबिट्स पिगमेंट, ये सब समझाया है, ठीक है. देन दैट्स व्हाई आई एम गोइंग ऑन विद दैट वेयर यू कैन सी पॉलिप्स एंड corals, that zone is called as profundal zone. Okay, now comes stratification. Is I've told you stratification in forest. I've taught you stratification in lake. Now we are seeing stratification in forest. Stratification in forest includes stratification in forest is mostly seen in tropical rainforest. Tropical rain forest. Tropical rainforest means heavily dense, long trees subsidizing all kinds of trees. Forest is called as tropical rainforest, which exhibits or excess or gets maximum amount of precipitation, that is rain and snow togetherly called as precipitation. NCERT का line है precipitation, word है ये precipitation, never forget. Precipitation means rain and snow togetherly, it's called as heavy raining, is called as heavy precipitation. Low precipitation is called as less raining, and moderately precipitation is called as medium. It's like sunny ray or a medium amount of rainfall. Based on rainfall, this precipitation word is used. Okay. So I said stratification in forest is mostly seen in tropical rainforest. Tropical rainforest is that forest which receives maximum amount of precipitation. Clear? Precipitation, I told you, it's rain. Precipitation means rain. It's rain. Rain and NCERT में देखोगे तो बोलेगा कि rain and snow called as precipitation. लिख लो snowy. ठीक है? चलो, stratification in forest in mostly seen in tropical rainforest, and उसका very good example is, I write it with a green. I gave you इसका example very startingly only, but still, surface bewilders, herbs, surface bewilders, herbs, shrubs, undershrubs, and trees. Undershrubs and trees. Then comes surface bewilders, herbs, shrubs, undershrubs, and trees. This is the very good example of stratification in forest. That is layer by layer arrangement of the plants based on their absorption of light. Based on their absorption of light. Based on the absorption of light. This is called as layer by layer arrangement or the absorption of the sunlight through the plants. It's called as stratification in the forest. And such type of forest or where all kind of stratification layers are seen is called as multi-storied forest. Multi-storied forest. So, where all stratifications are present, where all stratification in the forest can be seen, where all stratification of the layer by layer of the plants, shrubs, herbs, bewilders, everything is seen, such type is called as multi-storied forest. And very good example of multi-storied forest is the tropical rainforest. So मैम अगर बच्चों अगर आपसे कोई पूछे कि मैम multi-storied forest क्या होता है, वो वैसा forest होता है जिसमें all kind of stratification layer is important and it's present. Clear? See, we are going along with NCERT, we cover with a portion of AIIMS, we also cover with the portion of NEET, and then we give on few amount of general knowledge, GK based questions should also be solved which are coming in AIIMS, and this will help you to solve mostly assertion reason questions in AIIMS. This is that very important. That's why I am teaching you each and every point. Just go and refer these points. These points are systematically very, very important. And yes, when you understand this question, इसके बाद तो सबसे important topic हम लोग देखने वाले हैं कि पहले तो season कैसे होता है. How do seasons get? You know, you would have varied many types of questions like, ma'am, we get to know that it's rainy season, it's summer season, it's winter season. Then why? When do we know? How do we know that why this season occurs? किसी को सवाल जवाब आए? बस नहीं, भगवान पे यकीन कर लिया, भगवान ने तीनों सीजन डाल दिए जादू करके. It's nothing magic, it's all geology. And when you connect geology with ecology, see how beautiful ecology is, and no wonder how important it is. If you study this all points whatever I'm telling you, my friends, अगर assertion reason भी, इससे तो assertion reason कभी रुक ही नहीं सकता. You just go and see your assertion reason, and plus I'm covering your 5% AIIMS का जो GK है, that also is covered totally in this. And go and NEET is so like, if you do this, it's more than enough for NEET. Now comes the very good and the very last and very important topic of today's class we are going to see is succession. Give the next important, very, very important topic. As I said, succession. Succession is development of plant community, development of plant community, development of plant community on a barren area or a barren land, on a barren area or a barren land, barren area or a barren land, development of a plant community on a barren area or a barren land is called as biotic or ecological succession. Is called as biotic or ecological succession. Development of a plant community on a barren area or a barren land is called as a biotic or a ecological succession. Another very important point of this is the replacement of newer plants, the replacement of newer plants on the barren area. As of the old plants are replaced, and by a new plant. Such type is called as ecological or biotic succession. Why this barren land happens? Why? There are many factors which affect the cause of barren land. There are volcanoes, there are dunes, there are landslides, there are famine, and many other natural calamities which may connect or which may cause the land to barren. Hindi mein bole to banjar. So that causes land to be, when the land what is barren, when a land loses its fertility, when a land has completely lost its fertility to produce plant and give a proper nutrient to the plant, and that land is no more can be used on agriculture purposes, that is called as barren land. And when there is loss of such plant on a land, that is called such a loss of old plants, that is called as barren land. But after the time motivates, there is remodeling of the soil we can see, and soil gains back its fertility from the nutrients. That time we can say the succession has been occurred, and that is ecological succession. And why? Because new plants grow, develop, and there comes the life exists. When plant exists, life exists. Microbes exist, other organisms. We see a ecosystem, development of lake, development of forest, and then goes on the ecosystem. Clear? So this, when there is a development of a new plant on a succession rate or on a successive manner on a barren land, is called as what? Is called as ecological succession or a biotic component. Biotic is a component of a succession. Okay. Now comes a point that why do this succession happens? Biotic components are never stable. They are never stable. I'll let you. Biotic components are never ever stable. Biotic components are never ever stable. So they keep interacting. So they continuously, mark my word, continuously keep interacting so they continue, are never ever stable, so they continuously keep interacting with the physical environment, and due to change in the climatic changes, vegetation changes, and due to change in the climatic changes and vegetation changes, the plant keeps interacting, which in turn leads, which in turn keeps interacting, which in turn leads to move on. See, they are not stable. As on climatic changes, vegetative changes, vegetation changes occurs, these plant move on towards stability. And when they move on towards stability, they grow, they respond towards light, and that leads to succession. Clear? So, which in turn leads to moving on towards stability. Moving on towards stability, which leads to succession, which leads to regrowth, which leads to grow them and form a life, form an ecosystem. After this, when the succession is completed, life exists, microbes exist, plants exist, rabbits exist, beautiful herbivores, carnivores, forests develop. This is what the prime source of succession. Got it? Why does it happen? Clear? Now, there are few terms which are basically used in succession, and that are, I'll write it over here. Pioneer, terms used in community in succession with relation to succession. Terms used in community with the relation to succession. What are they? Pioneer, that are pioneer. Can you see? Pioneer. Community. So it is defined as the community which is very first to inhabit, in the stages of succession is called as pioneer community. Pioneer community. ये वैसी कम्युनिटी है जो फर्स्ट स्टेज, जो सबसे पहला रोल और जो फर्स्ट स्टेज ऑफ सक्सेशन में जो मिलता है उसी को हम लोग पायोनियर कम्युनिटी कहते हैं. आगे हम लोग देखेंगे हाइड्रैक्सियर, विच स्टेजेस ऑफ, उसमें हाइड्रैक्सियर का हम लोग स्टेजेस देखेंगे. तो अब ये पॉइंट क्लियर हो जाएगा कि फिर आप पूछना कि मैम ये स्टेजेस कैसे होते हैं, कौन से स्टेजेस होते हैं सक्सेशन के. तो आगे हम देखेंगे कि स्टेजेस ऑफ सक्सेशन क्या है. ठीक है, तो इससे मैंने आपको बताया कि व्हाट इज पायोनियर कम्युनिटी. पायोनियर कम्युनिटी इज दैट अमाउंट ऑफ कम्युनिटी विच रीचेस फर्स्ट, विच appears first to accompany or which appears first to get into the stage of succession, and that species is called as pioneer community बोलो या फिर species बोलो. Next comes climax. पिक्चर का climax तो देखते ही, अब succession का climax देख लेते हैं. मूवी का climax तो हमेशा सबको याद रहता है, सबसे stable point वही होता है. तो ये क्या लगता है, ये stable होगा? Comes the second one, as I told you, pioneer community. Now comes the climax community. What is this climax community? It is last to appear, and it is last to appear. The very last community which arises in the stages of succession is called as climax community. It is last to appear and are the most stable community. It is last to appear and are most stable community. It is last to appear and are most stable community in the succession. Such type is called as climax community, and are well interacting and are well interacting and are well interacting and have great interrelationship with the surrounding and have great interrelationship with the surrounding. Succession, the community which is last to appear, which appears very last. Pioneer was the first to appear, and the community which is last to appear is called as the climax community, and it is most stable community. How is it? It is most stable community, and in the succession, in the period of succession, and such type of community, such type is called as climax community. And second thing, it is and are well interacting. That is, it has great relationship or interrelationship with its surrounding. That's why it is called as well interacting, and it has great interrelationship with the surrounding. Clear? Now comes, it is the community. It is the community which lies in between the pioneer and climax community. Climax community. Now, these are those group of community which lies between the pioneer and climax community. Pioneer, I said, which is first to come. Climax, I said, which is last to come and most adaptable community. Then what are those communities which are in between them? Those kind of communities are called as serial community. Those kind of community are called as serial community, which lies between the pioneer and climax community. Which lies between the pioneer and climax community, and it is also called as, and it is also called as transient community. Why transient? Transient means something in between. Whenever you talk about transient, it basically means in between phase, or the phase which lies between two stable things. The first to come, it's beginning, it's the startup. The last to come, very stable, very accomplished, very adaptable. What in between those? Those is what? Transient. And this is the transient, which is called as serial community. Clear? Now comes the seer. Comes the seer. The community which is arranged in entire set or found in entire set of locality for succession. Set of locality for succession. Succession. What it is said, it is the seer, the community which is arranged or found in entire set of locality in succession. Such type of community or such type of community is called as seer. If suppose, example of it is, if suppose succession seen in fresh water, succession seen in fresh water, which is called as hydroseer. Hydroseer. Then comes succession seen in can you see the word seer? समझ में आया? Succession seen in salty water. बताओ, ये तो guess कर ही सकते. Halo, something related to halo, haline, anything is what? Salt. Succession seen in dry region, which is called as xeroseer. अगेन सीयर. ठीक है, याद रखना ये सारे पॉइंट, ये क्वेश्चंस में ऐसे पूछे जाते हैं. What are those plants which grow in shallow water? The seer of the community which grow in salty water, that is called as what? Haloseer. The community or the region of the succession seen in dry region, that is called as xeroseer. Xero means absence of water. That place is called as xero. This, if any condition, xerophytes, which grow in the plants which grow in dry region are called as xerophytes. The plant succession seen in dry region are called as xeroseer. Clear? Succession seen in rocks, lithosphere, lithosphere. Succession seen on rocks are called as lithosphere. And one more, last but not the least, let me write it over here. Succession seen on sand is called as samoseer. Any doubt in this? Now we will see what are the important points related to what are the variations which are seen in succession, what are the factors which are seen in succession, what factors which influence the succession, that is biotic factors and abiotic factors. Then we will see what are the stages of succession in a particular seer, in a particular community. Before we go to that, I'd like to explain you the seer in some more depth. Seer is what? Something, the community which is arranged or found in an entire set of locality. These two things are important. The locality, succession seen in water. What is the locality? Water. And that is called as what? Hydrosphere. Similarly, succession seen in the locality of salty water, and the set is called as what? Haloseer. Similarly, succession seen in dry region, the locality is dry region, that is called as xeroseer. Succession seen on the rocks, that is called as lithosphere. Clear? Succession seen on the sand, locality is what? Sand, that is called as samosphere. Clear? Any doubt? Any doubt in this? Please do ask. Okay, we have covered the maximum range of succession till here. Two important things in succession is present that we are going to see now. That is, as I told you, what are the deep variating points in succession. Second thing, we are going to see what are the factors which influence the succession, that is abiotic and biotic factors. Then we will see what is the actual stage in which the succession occurs. That is hydrax succession we are going to see, xeroseer we are going to see in depth. So, as I before and that all we are mostly going to conclude in the next class. Before we go on to the next class, or before we move on towards the few other topics which are important in succession, I would like to say that these all topics what we have learned together, see children whatever we are learning, it's very important point by point. Why? Because when we come to teach, or when I come to teach mostly, we go through lot of books. Why when we go through lot of books, it makes you easy to learn. It makes you to get a precise way. There's no time for you. There's no way in learning taking dozens of books and sitting for 4 hours and just reading one chapter. But reading one chapter concisely and all important questions will help you in NEET, will help you in AIIMS. And when you read it in a concise way, you get a concept, you get all important things. You know, you should eat everything, but you should know what to eat among that. When you come to know what to eat, you get it to the success, you get it to the rate of NEET, you get it in the race. So now, pack your bags and get on to the race of NEET to get this whatever it is so concise way. We are learning ecology in very concise, very precise way. In each and every point, hook and nooks of the point and hook and nooks of the syllabus have been covered between these two videos. You just go through it concisely. The way more you learn through these videos, the way more you're going to get the perfectionist. What I'm teaching is the all cream you're getting it. Go and read few books. You read True Mains, you read other more good books. You'll come to know how deep it is, how much you need to study those books. Better read in a precise way, concise way. You should know what you're reading, why you're reading, what is the importance of it, and there you get it done with your medicine, get it done with your MBBS. This is what we teach, and this is why we teach for this matter in that way. So please trust us and please go with these videos very precisely, and please mark each and every point what has been told. It is totally entrance based question. कल जो 3 species पढ़ाई थी ना, याद है? critical link species, endemic species and one more ketone species. Direct question पूछा गया था, match the following, which example match, and the same example was present in the question paper. Just go through previous year question paper, you will come to know. 3 points, 3 species were given. The question was like this: the 3 species was mentioned, which species? Endemic species, critical link species, and one more was what? The critical link species, endemic species and ketone species. These 3 species were mentioned, and the 3 things which was given example was same which I gave you. The tiger in a forest or the fig tree in the forest. Ketone species, you have to match through this. Critical link species, mycorrhiza was given only one example, and I have given you that example also in the previous class. Remember, those examples are very important. All the question, when I've go through 10 years question paper, you will come to know how the questions are asked. That's why these points are given you in such a concise way. Clear? Go through it, read it. And the third one, the question which was asked, I told you, for endemic species. Endemic species was given is Metacichia, which is present in the valley of China. Clear? And kangaroo in the Australia also. And then comes the last critical link species which I told you, which was given for mycorrhiza and ketone species, a tiger in the forest. So this is what, just when you remember these 3 things, it's so easy to pick up in the exam. Oh, it was taught in this way, and then and there you get it done. This is what. So next class we are going to begin with the succession there itself. Get motivated and pack your bags and get your books done. When you read in a first class, read it, get it done and dust it there itself. You should not keep something remaining for tomorrow, because tomorrow when it starts, freshly we will learn new things, new concepts, new questions. And जब हम question solve करेंगे, that time you will understand how easy the concept has been made to you. It's totally spoon feeding for you. Thank you very much, and tomorrow we are going to begin with a new session, so get ready for it. Thank you so much.